You're listening to Bigfoot Society, and I'm Jeremiah Byron. In this show, we go beyond the campfire stories to bring you firsthand encounters from people who say they've seen something impossible, from backwoods trails and remote mountain haulers to quiet farms and crowded highways. The stories come from everywhere, and each one leaves us with more questions than answers. These are the voices of the people who've lived it, so settle in, because today you'll hear another account that just might change the way you see the woods forever. So stay with us. Please keep Jeremiah in your prayers as he continues his fight against cancer. For more updates about his medical journey, please go to the Caring Bridge link in the show notes. Thank you. All right, Bigfoot Society, we've got the privilege of talking to Mr. Jesus Payan today. He is known for a variety of things. He's been a Hollywood actor, stuntman, and cryptid UFO researcher for over 30 years. Jesus, how are we doing tonight?
I am good.
That's awesome. Been looking forward to talking to you for quite a while, my friend. So thank you for coming on the show. I've heard that you've been into a lot of interesting things regarding your Bigfoot research, but let's start right from the beginning. What was it that first got you into researching Sasquatch or Bigfoot?
Well, when I first started out, I was about 4 years old, and my mom had a book called Arthur C. Clarke's book, Mysterious World, and that was like the first time I ever saw anything with Bigfoot related in there. And I saw the Loch Ness Monster. I was living in England with my parents, and we went to Loch Ness in Scotland and hunted Nessie for 2 weeks on the loch. And so it started early for me. And also, it was like I was seeing UFOs already. By that time I was barely between 4 and 5. And when I was seeing my first UFOs that I can remember, about a little over an hour's drive from me was the Rendlesham Forest incident. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's like England's Roswell.
Exactly.
So there was a lot going on. And then when I came to the States, anytime in elementary, whatever, we'd have those scholastic little book sales. Anything that was, cryptid related or UFOs or anything, I always would, try to get. And then I would say it didn't become actual research until after 2000. Okay. So after 2000, that's when I first got to experience it physically by being chased. Me and my friend were chased by what I believe was an adolescent Sasquatch. Well, for us, it looks like a 6 foot tall, full grown, scary thing, but 6 foot tall Sasquatch is pretty short for, especially a male, in that world. But yeah, that was my first taste of the unknown, officially, as in cryptid wise. So my folks, we moved to Ruidoso, New Mexico. My mom got a job at the forest department, and my sister got a job at the local police department. And we moved into a cabin there. And on the first couple of days we were there, I got to hear a Bigfoot scream, call, yodel, long, high pitch, almost like if you were going really fast down the road, and you just, like, at least 90, there was no anything to hit, and you just slammed on your brakes and just held onto your brakes until you stopped. It was a real long. That's the only way I could describe it. It sounded like somebody skidding, but it was just way too long. We're in the mountains, and there are no straight roads to do that. Everything in the forest shut up. My mom was right there, my dad was right there, my sister was right there, and it just got super duper quiet. And, I was like, "What the heck? What was that?" And then it did it again. And my mom joked, she said, "Maybe it's Bigfoot." And I was like, "No, I think it is. I think it is." And I ran inside, jumped on the computer, and looked up Bigfoot audio calls, recordings of Sasquatch, and I found one that matched exactly what we just heard. And then that was when it got really, I guess, addictive. And my mom, working with the forest department, they would get reports from campers and some of their patrol guys and rangers, but they couldn't do any investigating because it's not supposed to exist. But they're allowed to tell me about it. They didn't say who reported it, but they'd tell me the area it was reported in. My sister would also get, the police department would get Bigfoot reports, and we're not allowed to go check them out because it's not supposed to exist. So I would end up learning all the different areas that they were at. and that's when I really started doing my research. I'd say 2003-ish, or what I'd call research versus just thinking it's real cool and trying to read up on anything that I could find. Because back then, YouTube wasn't what YouTube is today. The internet wasn't what it is today. And unless you're uber rich in that time, in 2003. So I'd say that's when I officially started doing actual research into it.
That is absolutely fascinating. What was your age at that time period in 2003?
In 2003, I was 33.
Okay, that's cool. So you're 33. Your mom was getting you the reports from the forestry department. Your sister was giving you the stuff from the police department. Man, that sounds like an absolute dream. And you're living your real life X-Files out there, but all Bigfoot.
Oh, times 3. Good Lord.
My goodness. What was the craziest thing that you saw coming through from your mom or your sister?
I would say a rancher called, and he reported that his cattle were freaking out. His dogs started freaking out. So he ran out to the field, and he saw a Sasquatch trying to steal a cow, and it was grabbing it from behind. I'm guessing that you saw it, it looked kind of suspect or sus the way it was grabbing it, but it was just trying to, I guess, carry it off. But it grabbed it from behind, like it was going to do a Heimlich maneuver to the cow, and the cow was struggling, and there was footprints left in the mud where the cow was moving forward while the Sasquatch's heels were digging in. And at the time, I hadn't done any casting. I didn't have any casting stuff either, so I didn't even think about that. I was just like, oh, wow, because I found out where it was. I went to go talk to the guy, and there was tracks and everything still. So to me, that one was the weirdest from my mom's, from the forest department, unofficially, allegedly. And then from my sister's, the police department in Ruidoso Downs, she got a phone call from a Apache woman from the reservation. And the lady was, there was other phone calls to 911 too, because she was standing in the middle of the street and wouldn't move, and said she wouldn't leave that spot until police came and picked her up because she was so scared. And what happened was, this is in the middle of the daytime, like early afternoon. She was walking by the Walgreens, and was walking down the street that goes kind of behind it and downward, down to the canyon. And there was 2 Sasquatch digging through the trash cans, the big old, those big trash cans with the flippy lids the stores have. And we had just recently had major fires, so a lot of the Sasquatch and other animals were coming into town foraging, looking for food because everything was burnt. So she got so freaked out, and when she screamed, they looked up and walked right back into, towards the canyon in the forest. And that's when she started freaking out, and people, she was like, call the cops. And then when my sister got there, she told her the same thing and told her that she's not moving from that spot unless my sister gave her a ride anywhere but there. She wasn't trying to go anywhere like specific. She's like, I don't want to be anywhere near this spot. Please just take me somewhere else, So I thought that was, out of the 2, those are the most interesting from my mom and my sister. Now, even more interesting occasion happened in the same area in Mescalero, Apache. I was on the reservation hanging out with, some friends were having a little get-together, and this one lady comes up to me and she says, hey, they say that you're into the whole, Bigfoot Sasquatch thing, the Hairy Boys. And I was like, yeah, I kind of am. And she goes, well, my neighbor, she's a single mom. This is the story she told me. That her neighbor's a single mom with two kids. They were in their cabin, and a female Bigfoot and her, what they believe was a male child, which was like 5 feet tall, just knew how to use the handle and walked in her cabin. And her and the kids ran into the room, locked the door, and the mother Sasquatch and the child Sasquatch, the juvenile, rummaged through her kitchen and the fridge and were eating stuff and just making a mess. And after about 30 minutes, they finally had left, and they came out of the room, and the kitchen was all messed up. And she said, and can you believe it? They left the door open. Oh, the cold air got out. So she was more mad at the air conditioning situation than there was 2 freaking Sasquatch in your house,
That checks out though. It's
And,
funny. Wow, it sounds like there's quite a bit of activity in that area.
oh yeah, through all my research that I've figured out, I've been like kind of following their trail because, like I said, after 2003, later I ended up becoming a law enforcement investigator, bodyguard, kind of federal detention officer, and worked as a hearing officer, and so I was able to now like really improve my investigative skills and tracking skills, and took every opportunity that the force department would give, classes, any type, of anything to do with animals and tracks and, and the local fauna. Because of that, I was able to start really putting together where they travel and how far they travel. And I didn't realize that Sasquatch do go through deserts, and they're able to run 100 miles, and not a problem for them to just go. And they'll travel all the way to a different mountain range here, because there's about 60 miles in between our mountain ranges in White Sands Missile Range, the Holloman Air Force Base, that leads all the way to El Paso, Texas, and Juarez, Mexico. And I followed the trail because there was reports from the military guys doing their patrol at the missile range, and they report seeing Sasquatch out there at night. And one of them reported, seeing one running with their Humvee. They're driving that full speed, I think it was like 45 or 55 or something, and it was keeping up. It was on all fours, just running with them. And then you go even farther down the mountain range, which I believe are the Oregon Mountains. Eventually, you'll get to the Border Patrol area where the border is, and they have reports from the Border Patrol themselves at nighttime using their FLIR, so you can see the heat signature, and they would occasionally see a Sasquatch squatted inside a big bush waiting for illegal immigrants. And there's been bodies found out there, dismembered, but they say it's cartel. We don't know. But I think it's really interesting that in that same area, there's hills there, mountains, smaller mountains, that have tons of old mines, okay? Old silver mines and Cherokees mines. And the local urban legend for a long time in that area was that there's a witch that lives in those caves, and if you go up there, she'll catch you and eat you. And the description of the witch is about an 8-foot tall, hairy covered monster.
Oh, wow.
The form can take. Yeah.
I want to verify. I guess, just make sure I heard it right. Something you said a minute ago. So you're saying that there are actual reports you've taken from Border Patrol where Sasquatch is pretty much dispatching or believed to dispatch illegal immigrants as they cross the border?
In El Paso, my family, I have my uncle was a sheriff in El Paso, Texas, and my other uncle is a police officer, and his son is a police officer. He's a detective there at the department now. And one of my other uncles was the Border Patrol. So I got to hear from them, and there's actually a video on YouTube with a Border Patrol agent telling the same story. It's on YouTube. Like, he's in uniform and everything. He's talking about them seeing Bigfoots out there.
That is absolutely fascinating. Do you get a lot of reports from that Holloman Air Force Base in the White Sands area?
Not really too bunches. The base has a lot of weird crap going on because of the missile range. Like, do you remember that movie or hear of the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Sure.
That happened here on that missile range. It was based on that here. So there's more UFO reports here in that area of the base than Sasquatch, but they have been multiple reports of those weird things being found out there. I think was it Big Sasquatch Files or Bigfoot Files with Lynn? Do you know her name? Lynn? Her name's Lynn?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah, she used to have playlists of different reports. Like, one was the reports from Wildman from the 1800s and 1900s reports, and then she had a section where it was military reports. And in one of those videos, she also talks about Holloman Air Force Base, talking about some of the reports that have been turned in from there. So I would say the more the most reports out here is normally UFOs, and closer to the reservation, it's more common to hear about the Bigfoot situation. It's occasional in Ruidoso, which is everything from where I'm sitting right now in this moment. Everything I'm talking about is pretty much within an hour, at most. Where I do the majority of my research, which I do it everywhere now, but the majority of my research, I live at the base of the mountain here, and it's in Cloudcroft, New Mexico, and it's about a 15 to 20 minute drive from my location. So it's right here. And yeah, it's picking up. People are coming out more and more willing to talk about this because it's become mainstream, the Sasquatch deal because of, the internet. But yeah, it's trip.
It really is. I've only been in this for about 5 years, and I can even see a difference over the last 5 years. It just continues to become more and more mainstream. The focus of the interview is definitely going to be on Bigfoot, but I am going to ask a question just because if I don't, my listeners would be like, why didn't you ask a question? So, but
no problem.
We'll twist it. You see, so you're greatly known for playing a role in the show Breaking Bad, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I am.
So during the filming of that show, did the topic of Bigfoot ever come up?
Yes.
Do you have any stories you can share?
Well, when you're in between scenes, sometimes there's an hour in between or less or more, or depending on how technical the scene is, and if they have to reset, everything, those explosions or gunshots or whatever. So I would always be bored as hell, and I'm curious, and I'd go, talk to the other, actors and be like, hey, man, believe in Bigfoot? You know what I mean? And they'd be like, no, do you? And I'm like, mm-hmm. And then I would tell them, experiences that I've had. So the one person that showed the most interest in it was RJ Mitty. He plays Walt Jr. on Breaking Bad.
Oh, yeah.
And me and him ended up being roommates and living in LA together. So he was the most interested in Bigfoot, and wanted to hear everything I had to talk about it, and wanted to plan a hunt. And then his mom said no, that would not be good for his career. And then I got offered 2 different TV shows. Do you remember the TV show Sons of Anarchy?
Sure. Yep.
Okay, well, there was a girl in it, an actress named Kristen Renton. She was the 2 main characters. They were brothers, and one was named Toby, and he had like a long beard. His wife on the show, girlfriend, real pretty girl, they were going to do a Bigfoot hunting show with me and her, because it became they heard so much about, me and being connected with that stuff. And I thought it'd be neat, but it didn't work out. She ended up doing some other project, and that never happened. Then I got offered another show that I was going to be doing it with Megan Fox. And me and Megan, it was going to be us doing investigations around the world of all the weird stuff, Not just Bigfoot, not just UFOs, not just ghosts, just a little bit of everything. And it was all ready to go. And then Victoria's Secret offered her, I don't know, it was like $250,000 to go do a runway tour with them or something. And it paid twice as much as what they were offering her to do the show. So she went with the Victoria's Secret thing, and then met her new husband that you know today, Machine Gun Kelly.
Machine Gun Kelly. What could have been? That would have been a very interesting show. And I mean, who knows? You may even get something offered in the future. I mean, you're getting some. So
yeah, well, I had just got married, so that didn't work out too well. My wife was like, "No."
She was not on board.
She was like, "No." I was like, "Come on,
Bigfoot." Yeah.
So yeah, it was like the producers wanted me and Kristen from the Sons of Anarchy to spend 2 weeks in the forest, no cameras, nobody else, just me and her, and they wanted me to teach her for 2 weeks every single thing possibly I knew about hunting and Sasquatch, so for the show, and that was just did not help,
No. No, that would have
But
not made it better.
I'm
Probably.
I'm a professional. You know, I'm not a dog,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh
I'm
yeah.
a faithful man. But I don't blame any woman that would be married to somebody for doing that. They'd be like, no, sorry, buddy. You know.
If that had happened, that 2 week period, what kind of things would have you had brought up during that time?
Well, first thing I would show her is how to recognize an area that has Sasquatch in it, more than likely. That's how I try. I don't just go to random spots. First, of course, I'll look up the areas where there's been reports, but I only go in certain areas that I see the telltale signs of Sasquatch, which is their tree leans, their wooden hieroglyphs, pretty much, that they're used to talk to each other. They're not for us humans to know. We're not supposed to know, exactly what's going on with them. So, that would be the first thing to show her that if you see these specific things, like there's a tree lean, the giant X's, trees that are sticking in the ground upside down, things that humans can't do without a major tractor or say a crane. And if, you're like, okay, well, if somebody came in here with a tractor or a crane, they could have moved these things. Then, I would tell her, okay, if that's the case, then where did it have to go through to get to that spot? And if those trees aren't knocked down for it to go through there, then probably wasn't one of those things. Anything that you see that's odd in the forest, you got to ask yourself first, can a human do it? And if a human could possibly pull it off, then you got to ask yourself, why? Why would they do that? And how far are you into the mountains? Like, would somebody go, man, this would be so funny. I'm going to make a wood structure, and hopefully in the next, 10 years, somebody will accidentally walk onto it and think it's a Bigfoot. You know what I mean? It's like, okay. Because, if you ever lifted wood, if you're out there or you've done any wood chopping, a log that's longer than 4 feet and 10 inches thick, they get pretty heavy, So when you're dealing with giant teepees, 40-foot, 30-foot, 50-foot teepees, and these logs, you go there and you got to look and see, did this just fall over? Is it snowfall? Is it a dying tree? Is it a diseased tree? If the root did not come out of where it's at, it was brought there. And if it was brought there, could a human have done it? And if a human couldn't have done it, which animal in that forest could have done it? And if you can't figure out all the known species in that forest that possibly somehow strangely could pull that off, which usually isn't the case, then you fall into, it might have been a Bigfoot. Does it fall into the normal, quote unquote, normal tree structure situations that are commonly found in Bigfoot areas? Then you can say, hey, I think it's a Bigfoot. And then from there, that's when you go deeper into looking for tracks, for, seats where they'll sit, and eat piñones from the pine cones and watching certain areas, stuff like that, little things like that to look out for. And to always, I would tell her not to throw out the baby with the bathwater, because a lot of Bigfoot researchers do this. They'll see smaller things, small structures or something, and they'll just automatically be like, yeah, no, that's way too low. It was a deer. A deer broke that branch. A deer did this. It was a deer. You can't throw away what you're finding because they have children. And how do we teach our children to do what we want them to do? We show them and they copy us. So if I'm a big old Sasquatch and I'm making a big old, teepee or say like a wigwam, a little shelter, or doing the grid patterns with the wood on the, making these weird, strange grids with the fallen trees, and then you find just little versions of them. More than likely, it's either a juvenile or one of the little Sasquatches, the little feet. They look like Sasquatches, but they're tiny. They're like dwarves. Yeah. There's so much that I would have a feature, but I'd have 2 full weeks to go through it all, and that would have been enough.
Have you gotten to the point where you know exactly what Bigfoot is, or you've made the decision in your mind, okay, this is what Bigfoot is, this is what it's all about?
Yeah. Well, without question, it's real. Bigfoot's real. 2, I believe it's a human. I don't think it's local fauna or just a gorilla or a chimpanzee. Not that they're stupid or anything, but it's not just an animal. It's a human, and it's just a really hairy, large one that can outdo everything we can do easily and survive, way easier. But I really do believe that the Sasquatch were the first version of humans, and at some point they got. Well, if you study, ancient history and the Sumerians and all the different Native American stories of the first ones that were here were mischievous. They were too big. They were too strong. They didn't want to listen. They were causing tons of problems. And call them gods, call them presidents, call them whoever was in charge, got pissed off and pretty much kind of like banned them from interacting with us. And they were sent all to the depths of the forest around the world, never to mingle amongst men again. And we're getting now, people are finding a bunch of big, giant, hairy dudes in these forests. But it's way more complicated than that, I think. It's not just, really hominids that have survived from, way back when, because there's reports of them being with aliens or greys or reptilians, whatever you want to call them, demons, all the same little weird guys with the big heads and the big, those big almond-shaped eyes. Some are green, some are gray, some are white, some are dark brown, some are black. They've been seen with them. UFO reports are often follow a Bigfoot sighting or orbs glowing. Then you got the people that say, they can jump into different dimensions. I think that they're like humans in the sense that some are wild, inbred, and just kind of like Neanderthal man, but way, way more primitive. And then I think there's some that are like us in the hippie sense, make love, not war. We love you. We care about humans. They try to protect us. There's the stories that where you find, hear little kids or somebody was saved by one. And then there's the ones that hate us with a passion that'll eat us out of anger, not because they're hungry. And then, like I said, the list goes on. There's ones that I'm guessing our military has that they're messing with. Like I said, there's so much to them that it's not, I can't just stick them in one little section, but for sure they are real and some sort of human because, we worked on the DNA of Sasquatch with the whole genome project. It's half human, period. The other half, we're not. The military knows, but the mitochondrial DNA was a human mother, the first one when they were first made, which goes to the story with the Sumerians of when they created man, and the first one was covered in hair that they made, and it was artificial insemination, and they combined it with a human mother and a hominid from where they were occupying, apparently, local hominids, for slavery reasons.
Some really fascinating stuff. And the thing I love about the topic is that there's literally something for everyone in the field of Bigfoot. I think people that aren't in the field of Bigfoot, they're like, oh, it's just whatever. But when you start looking into it, you're like, oh, there's so many different ways that I could look into this. Now, you kind of mentioned military stuff for a bit, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. Do you think, how right now we're kind of living through a UFO disclosure? It's starting. Right. It's happening for the last few years, and now it's becoming more and more, even as we're talking. Do you think maybe we will sometimes we'll live through that with Bigfoot or Sasquatch?
I would say not by them telling us. If it does happen, it'll be because they can't control the situation with them. It's the only way I would see it coming out, because it's way too useful as an asset to the military versus, like the UFO thing. The UFO thing we can't really touch. It's not in our backyard. It's very, very elusive, beyond, looking in the forest. And of course, you have a lot of technology themselves that they're using UFO-wise that they can get away with saying, "Oh, it's aliens," But with the Sasquatch thing, I think they're more interested in the whole DNA aspect of it and using it for some type of not cool things,
Oh,
yeah, no, for sure. Because I've you'll hear some saying, well, "There's no evidence. All there is some blurry pictures," right? But if you actually do the research and take the time to do the research, there's more than enough evidence. Times 10, times 20 squared to the root of, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
We got footprints with dermal ridges that are not human. The dermal ridges run the same direction as the great apes, like gorillas and chimps. We got video. We've got pictures. We've got good pictures. And everybody complains about, there's no clear pictures. Well, we got clear pictures, and then everybody said, it's a fake because it can't be real. They're too good. You know what I mean? So, like, a lot of people out there that, are going to hear, I'm going to say that word, odd standing. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, yeah. No, it's cool.
That pisses off a lot of people.
I know. Amazing. There's people all over the world that are just going click on this right now. It's like it's fine. We can talk about Todd. Don't worry about it, guys.
I want y'all just listen, and I'll give y'all some good reasons to keep on listening. All right. So I think there's two reasons a lot of people don't like Todd standing. That's a huge problem in the Bigfoot world and every other cryptid and paranormal group out there. Oh, it's so much drama, silly drama. Everybody judges everybody by their personality, not on their evidence, but by their personality and if they like them or not. Todd standing, okay? He's abrasive. I mean, no disrespect to you, Todd. I know you're passionate and you're doing what you're doing. But a lot of people don't like how passionate he is. When he was out hunting with Jeff Meldrum, Dr. Jeff said, he's just really a little overly passionate, you could say. And it's like, look, it's obviously Bigfoot. Which, because he's seeing it out there, it's obvious to him, but Dr. Jeff, he isn't ready to just declare stuff. You know what I mean? He works at a university still. He's got to worry about that stuff. But, so I listened to everybody's complaints about Todd standing, and their complaints, the biggest one, they said it's fake. I ask them, why do you think it's fake? They'll tell me, oh, there's footage of him faking it. I'm like, really? Show it to me. Crickets. Okay, let's throw that out the water because nobody's been able to show me the footage that proves that he's fake, The next answer is, oh, his sister-in-law works in the movie industry as a makeup artist. So it was made by her. She made, the mask they put on Todd, right? And then it's Todd standing himself pretending to be Bigfoot and taking pictures of himself. Well, luckily, I'm a professional, and I've been in the movie industry for going on 20 years now. And I know special effects. I went to cosmetology for makeup a long time ago. Those are two different departments. The makeup lady, she dusts your forehead and your nose so it's not too shiny for the camera. She'll glue on maybe a fake mustache or a goatee or put on a wig on you. She's not a creature creator. They don't make animatronics. They don't make masks. You need special effects people to do that. It's not cheap whatsoever, okay, to do that. He does not scream wealthy to me. That's just personal, my own opinion, to where he would be wasting the money to do that on what it would cost. Do you remember the movie The Dark Crystal?
Sure, yeah, classic Jim Henson movie, right?
Exactly. So I'm friends with a guy that worked with Jim Henson on that movie, Michael McCormick. Okay, he is a puppeteer, for Jim Henson, and helps build those type of things. And for that movie, they needed a little bit of everything. Some things are animatronics, some things are people in suits, some things are puppets. In that movie. So I asked him. I said, Michael, do me a favor. I'm gonna send you some images and a video. I need to know something. Is it a mask? Is it a puppet? Or is it animatronic? Or do you think it's an animal? That's all I want to know. And if you think it's animatronic or a puppet or a mask, what kind of budget would I need to pull that off? Okay. Now, one of the images of the Sasquatch, it's next to a tree which has certain size needles, the leaves with their needles of a specific type of evergreen. You can literally figure out the size of the head of that, whatever it is, by measuring those needles next to its head, which it shows when you do that it's a giant freaking head. You know what I'm saying? It's not a normal size head. It's huge. And so Michael said it's not a puppet for sure. It's not a mask. And if it's animatronic, which he doesn't think it was, for that size of a head with movable blinking eyes, and that's large, and you have to have a whole team to run it. If you ever seen that type of stuff actually done in Hollywood, you literally have 5 to 10 people all working different parts of that animal, fake animal, whatever you want to call it, animatronic things, to make it all work together to be believable for an audience. And you're looking at $1 million to build something like that and have a whole team to do that, you know? So a bunch of stuff points to me that no, it's not fake. Sure, he may be abrasive, he may be, considered a jerk or whatever, but his step or sister-in-law, whatever, makeup people don't do that kind of stuff. And if she was doing that kind of stuff, it would be an IMDb with all her credits as a special effects artist and creating creature cool stuff. You know what I mean? Because if that's animatronic and fake or puppets, she needs an award. She needs to be working in Hollywood way more than she is, instead of putting on lipstick and eyeshadow on people and dyeing gray hairs black. You know what I mean? That's the only reason why I think. And I measured the picture. Everybody goes, oh, look, it's Todd standing under a mask. If you measure the eye of that Sasquatch, the main one that he shows, and you check the distance between the eyes. I went to art college. I went to commercial art college. I know anatomy. I know the distance. Humans have one eye in between the eyes we have. The size of your left eye and the same size as your right eye, unless you got, you're born to, malformed. It's one eye in between. If you measure the one, the eye on that, alleged Sasquatch, it fits 3 of its eyes in between the 2 eyes.
Oh, wow.
Which is physically impossible for a human, unless you got like elephant man syndrome or something. You know what I mean? So I don't care if people are jerks. There's a lot of people in the Bigfoot community that I can't stand. Ooh-wee. Just want to be like, psh, 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 smack them just so hard. But that does not have anything to do with real evidence, any type of evidence. And if we are dying for real evidence and we're going to throw it out, some of the best visual photography ever of Sasquatch, well, outside of, government sources, I would try a little harder to scrutinize it a little bit better than just doing a GIF image overlay and saying that his sister-in-law made it. You know what I mean? If that's all the evidence you got, come on, guys. We're going backwards. We're going backwards when that should be like, who cares if he's a weirdo or whatever people want to call him, whatever. It's like imagine people getting pissed off at Dr. Jeff Meldrum because his beard. Well, I don't like his Sasquatch theories and his work on feet because he's got a stupid beard. It's like, come on, guys, really? You guys are killing me, dude.
Well, I like the mustache better a little bit. Mustache Meldrum.
Right.
It's classic.
Mm-hmm. I'd say definitely.
This Todd Standing discussion is such an interesting discussion. I will tell you this. I did interview a gentleman who had a wild encounter outside of Oak Ridge, Oregon. And the way he was very hesitant to describe the face of it. And he was like, I know I'm gonna get crud for this, but I will tell you that what Todd Standing captured in that photo is what I saw that day. And I know a lot of people, after I say this, will pretty much not take my encounter seriously, because there's just so many people. Yeah, it's weird that it's such an interesting topic, but I've never talked to Todd personally.
Right.
But it's such a weird, how it's such a polarizing conversation, right?
Right. Well, you've heard of Dr. Bendenagel?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, a lot of people love that guy. A lot of people love his research, right? So that's all I'll open with. I love to do this because it's so funny. I'll tell you, you heard of Dr. Bendenagel? Oh, I love that old man. Rest his soul, and, R.I.P. And, oh, man, he was the real deal, right? Then I'd be like, well, he went out with Todd Standing, and Todd showed him videos that he hadn't shown anybody else of Sasquatches. And Dr. Bendenagel said, it's real, what he has. It's not fake. In his own professional opinion, Todd Standing is not making it up. So are you saying that you think Dr. Bendernagel's a fake too? Or is he just an old, stupid old man that you guys don't trust? Or are you going to trust the 30 plus years of his work, knowing this creature and deciding for himself while he was up there, actually with Todd, going to the areas and seeing all the footage that he had? Is he scared to show more people because everybody's all, oh, it's fake? You know what I mean?
Right. It
says a lot to me.
Yeah, it's a very interesting conversation, especially
right?
It's tough when some of the parties involved are no longer with us, so you can't ask them,
Well, he's on video saying it. That's the thing.
Yeah, right.
He's literally on video saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, right? See, like, my issue is, I don't care what other people think. Big guys, a lot of people have gone out with me hunting, or they've invited me to go with them. And for whatever reason, I'm a weird magnet, okay? And I get interaction a lot, especially at nighttime with all these people that I've gone with and people that don't like me. And they get mad because they've had nothing going on, and I go with them, and then all of a sudden there's action, whatever you want to call it. So a lot of people, they can't say, oh, he's making it up, because it happened when I was with him. I've got pictures of freaking Bigfoots looking in my tent.
I've seen those.
2 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a friend, a funny-looking green guy, And I've got more photos nobody has, not too many people have really seen. More recent, because the original, the tent thing was in 2017, but this was last year. Yeah, I got my new phone. It's the Android Ultra 1324 or whatever, super zoom night paint shot phone that costs way too much, and I'm still paying on it type of phone. And I took my parents out camping. We hadn't been camping together in years. And we went to an area where there was reports, of campers saying that something was throwing rocks at their tent, and, the usual, silliness of the Bigfoots like do. But I was like, I'm not hunting, I swear. Let's just enjoy ourselves. And yeah, eventually started hearing weird crap. And I was like, what? Now is a good time to try out this night shot that it has. But it isn't night vision or nothing like that. It's a 5-second delay, and I guess it takes in all the light possible. If there's absolutely no light, it don't work. There has to be at least some kind of light source, even a small fire in the camp does amazing. And I brightened them up, and sure enough, it looks like a juvenile Sasquatch from a branch. Do you remember those red little monkeys in a barrel that you hang with each other?
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't that close, exactly, okay, hanging down off a branch. But this is the wildest night, because I experienced a whole bunch of different stuff, not just Bigfoot stuff, for years and years. And this was the first time, though, that I ever got in a picture what I believe is a werewolf, wolfman, dogman, whatever they want to call them. They're all on the same night. A wolf person, dude, looking just mean, a Bigfoot with his eyes glowing, and on the right side of Bigfoot, a gray. So, like, what's going on? You know what I mean? How can I categorize that? You know, it's like I already had in 2017 showing two Sasquatch with a green, gray, whatever you want to call them, a reptilian, red eyes, green skin.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. And I've been blessed enough because of my movie career and being a semi-celebrity. A lot of different researchers, they want to meet me. They want to talk to me. They want to invite me out, you know, when they're hunting and stuff. And it opened a bunch of doors to being involved with some serious, you know, cool teams of researchers and working with Jim Goodall and being on the Falcon project before it fell apart, the Genome Project, you know. I working with Jeff Meldrum, working with other anthropologists, having anthropologists, you know, heads of different universities coming to me asking me questions about it. It's like, that's wild. That's pretty wild stuff, you know. And I've seen them myself. I know it's real. I've videotaped Bigfoot, not great footage, you know, nothing amazing, but it was a Sasquatch. I wasn't even the one that saw it. When we were driving home, you know, on the reservation, Navajo reservation, the couple that I was giving a ride to Walmart to get some food, the wife, we're talking about Bigfoot, and she's like, hey, look, there's one right there. And I was like, what? And we turned to the right, and sure enough, there's the Bigfoot just walking down the irrigation trail.
Oh, wow.
We pulled over, jumped out, and filmed it, you know? But yeah, there's just too much evidence that I've gotten, and I'll let anybody scrutinize my stuff. I don't mind telling the truth. I don't care at all. I ain't worried and scared about nothing. I'm already a public figure. People ask me if I'm worried about it destroying my career, and I'm like, what are they going to destroy?
Right.
What, they're not going to want me to play a drug dealer? They won't let me play a murderer carrying bodies in the desert? Oh, no, not the scary guy. Come on, man. Whatever, man. The whole reason I got into Hollywood was because I had to pay bills. I found out I had a daughter, and I was like, I need to do something that's going to make me money. I don't have the money to go to 12 years of school for a lawyer or a doctor. You know, I need to get into a business that I know I can make a good amount of money to take care of my parents and the kids. And yeah, that's how I got in that. Because I knew I was so stereotyped by society because I'm a big, giant Mexican. You know what I mean? I'm bald-headed, got tattoos, got teardrops, the whole, you know, gambit. And yeah, I've been screwed with. I faced tons of years in prison on false charges. I've never been convicted of a felony once. But I faced how many years on stupid crap because I matched the description, you know? And so I was like, well, man, Hollywood should eat it up. They only got normal-sized Mexicans. You know what I mean? I'm a giant one in the realm of normal-sized Mexicans. You know, 6'3" is huge. You know, but yeah, so that's, you know, it wasn't my dream to be an actor. I wasn't like, you know, taking acting classes. Oh, I wish. No, I went to my first call as an extra on a Steven Seagal movie, and I was the only giant Mexican where he was supposed to be in East LA beating up his Mexican gang, but they were normal size, so it looked like he was beating up little kids. He's 6'5", you know? And I was already a bodyguard, a professional fighter, law enforcement, you know, all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, dude, I'm down to fight him, you know? And they're like, okay, come meet him. And we met. He tried me out, you know, for my acting skills, you know, just some improv. And he liked it. It was good enough for his movie. And he said, I want you to meet me at my hotel tonight so we can fight. He wanted to see what I could do. So I was like, hell yeah. I don't care what anybody says about Steven Seagal. They say, oh, he's a fake martial artist. No, he's a 6'5" giant that is very strong. I don't care how chubby he is or not. But he is the only Caucasian man ever given permission by the Yakuza in Japan to teach Aikido as a master. Fake martial arts can't do that. You know what I mean? But yeah, so that's how I got into Hollywood like that. I became just a bad guy. It was to fight and get shot and carry people. But yeah, so I'm not concerned about that because this is all the Bigfoot stuff, the UFO stuff, the ghost stuff, all the weird stuff that I experience and, you know, share with everybody. That was happening before any job I had.
Exactly. Oh, it's such an interesting path that you've gone down. It's really cool. There's a few things I want to circle back around real quick to make sure that they don't disappear. So that picture that you took just last year, where it's like the Bigfoot, the alien, and the dogman type creature, it sounds like that's not a public thing at all?
Not officially. I haven't put up a video yet. Are you able to receive pictures while we're on the phone or no?
I mean, my email, I have an email you could send it to. Yeah, it's bigfootsociety@gmail.com.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send you those pictures and you can trip out on them.
All right, cool.
You know, and that's the thing. I show everybody because I do enhance images. I'll tell them, but I will let everybody know exactly what free app I'm using on my phone.
Right.
The process and the original picture. I am happy to show them all that. So and on my videos on my channel, on my YouTube channel, I do that because I don't want people being, well, look at it. It's obviously been messed with. It's like, yes, it has been brightened. It has been sharpened.
Mm-hmm.
I have added slight contrast. I have, adjusted the ambience so you guys can see better. I know it's there, but not everybody can see what I'm seeing right now. So I need to bring it out a little bit better so you can see. Because like I'll send you some of the original shots before brightening and stuff. Like with the two Bigfoots in my tent, or looking in the tent. Some people haven't seen. I don't just have those couple pictures of them looking in the tent. I've got to where they were freaking out. The guy that I was with, he was like on the verge of an official panic attack. I shine the flashlight in their face, and you can see one of the Sasquatch grimace.
Oh my goodness! In
the picture, he's grimacing like, "Oh, that's bright." You know what I mean? If it was a mask, how the hell did it do that?
Wow!
How can you grimace? You know what I mean? And then have you heard of Tinker Thunker?
Oh yeah, he's great.
Okay, it's a good friend of mine.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And I think he's gotten too concerned with people, what they say, and he's always trying to prove to them that, and he's having his next videos, they're like more about that than just the research anymore. I hope he works that out and stops giving the crap what people say. He just does what he does because I love what he does, But he came out with a way to measure the faces of Sasquatch and their arms and legs he's mainly, concerned with. But yeah, when you measure the face of the majority of actual possible Sasquatch images, they're not human proportions. For normally, unless of course there's, they're born with, malformed. Like if you get your finger right now and you put it under your nose, the top of it should touch your nose and the bottom of your finger should touch your upper lip, or at least close. Sasquatch, not all of them, but I'll say the majority from what we're seeing, you fit two fingers, not one, but two. And that's where their mouth begins, under that part. When he came out with that, it was after my incident in 2017 with those images. I used his anything he does for the face measurements. They fit.
Wow.
How would I know in advance that he was going to invent that thing by scrutinizing all these different images and videos? How would I know that 3 years earlier?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I can't wait to see those. What was it that you did with Jane Goodall?
Well, she was on the Falcon Project. Oh,
right. Yeah.
And she was going to be part of the Juno Project too.
Can you explain real quick a lot of people are not going to know what the Falcon Project is, I think.
Okay. So once upon a time, a long, long time ago.
Right.
There was a guy named William Barnes. He was always cool to me. I'm sorry everything went crappy with it, with the situation, because he meant well. Got dealt a hard hand. But the Falcon Project was they were going to send up an airship drone, but not the typical drone with just, the propellers, but it was going to look like an actual blimp kind of. And they were going to send it up way high, and it would have all the different abilities of, LiDAR. I don't know about LiDAR, but, night vision, heat sensing, all that fun stuff. And they were going to send it over areas so Bigfoot wouldn't know that they were passing by watching what's down there. And they had multiple individuals that were going to be on the ground. I was one of those individuals that was going to be there for 6 months in the forest. Yeah, living there and doing all the research with several other people that have been chosen. And then you had the anthropologists that were going to be, we'd report to all our information and what we're getting, the evidences of. But unfortunately, it pulled all the funding, and people showed up to the locations, and there was no one there because nobody had told them that had happened, unfortunately. And luckily, somebody reached out to me before I headed out and said, "Hey, dude, don't come. It's not happening." They pulled the plug, But it was a really huge thing that was going on. There was lots of excitement for it. I was excited for it. I was looking forward to just being stuck in the forest for 6 months. Just, I love that kind of stuff, But yeah, so it fell apart. And then later came the Genome Project. There was 100 study. We're working with Oxford University on the DNA of Sasquatch. And there was 100 samples given. And then everybody started attacking Melba Kitchum because she started telling other stuff beyond her work as a DNA expert. And people, once again, are judging people on their personality, or they just don't like them, not on their actual physical evidence or visual evidence that they put forth.
Yeah. There is a lot of jealousy in the field as well.
Woo! Oh yeah.
That I've seen that in the last 5 years destroy relationships that should have lasted for decades. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that. But it can be just guys don't get jealous.
It's in everything.
It is
in film, at regular jobs. It doesn't matter where you are. Humans are just they can be so stupid sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's the same everywhere. It doesn't matter. Because I'm involved with so many different types of the paranormal, and I've been, an expert for the UFO TV shows. I dealt with, demonology, ghosts. I'm a pastor. I've done cleansings in houses. I deal with my own issues with ghosts and stuff. I have seen UFOs. I have seen the little gray guys. I've seen so much. It's just that the Bigfoot thing is what people find most interesting, I guess, that I get requested to talk about most.
Sure.
And that's why I don't care. It's like, y'all can hate me all you want. This is my normal life. I can't turn it off. I'm just sharing with you guys what I'm experiencing, what I believe is going on. I am not here to prove anything to anybody. I'm just here to share what I'm finding out and experiencing.
Have you done any research or gone on any expeditions outside of the Southwest?
I've done Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, California, Washington, Oregon, Oklahoma.
Oh, wow.
I've got plans already set up for Florida and upstate New York. My research and my studies, I study every continent in the United States of all possible Sasquatch-related information.
Where did you go to in Oklahoma?
The Comanche Reservation out there.
Okay.
What's it called? The Onobia or Anobi or Anoba.
Oh, you went to Honabi. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that kind of that area, you know what I mean? And the Bigfoots out there are mean. It's a trip, man, because like I said, there's so many different kinds, that are out there. Like if you heard the story of the Toobie brothers, that whole Sasquatch massacre war between the natives and the cavalry and the Bigfoots, that's some wild stuff. If you know the Honabi incident, that's some wild stuff. But like over here, you never hear the violent stuff. There's people that have gone missing, I'm sure, but you never hear in this area of violent attacks or cannibalism. In Florida, It seems like they have more of the more animalistic ape activity versus the and much smaller too. But there is giant ones out there. But the ones that were mostly reported are 6 to 7 feet at most. Over here, the biggest one I worked with J.C. Johnson. Again, I got pictures of that. It's like, at least, I know this sounds ridiculous, but the picture of the Sasquatch that I'm talking about is between 20 and 25 feet tall.
Wow. I mean, I've heard of them that big. It's two gentlemen up in Oregon. No, that was track size. I'm sorry, 23-inch track size. But what you said was very big.
Like Alaska, Canada, up there, that's where you hear about the big ones. Mm-hmm. But here in New Mexico, that's unheard of. The only reason why I say it's that big is because the picture that we have of the Sasquatch, it's sitting on its butt. Okay, it's sitting on the ground, and its legs are kind of crossed, sort of, and it's sitting in an area where they're called the juniper trees. They're like evergreen type juniper trees. The tallest ones grow to about 12 feet. The average is between 10 and 11 feet of these trees. Because it's like, if you ever approach a mountain or a forest, between the flatlands and the main forest, you usually have halfway sized trees. Not to get to the actual forest, you get the big boys, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the same situation here. So these trees that it's sitting next to, okay, fully grown trees, come up to its chest. The lower part of its chest, and it's sitting down.
Oh, wow.
I know that these are the trees and the size of the trees because my mom works for the forest department, and I went there and showed them the picture. I was like, don't worry about whatever that is, but what kind of trees are those? They're like, where's it at? I was like, Madrid area. They're like, well, those are juniper trees. And I go, well, how big do they grow? They're like, what is that? I'm like, don't worry about that. I'm just asking about the trees.
That's funny.
Yeah.
When you're in Oklahoma, in Honubby, did you have any interesting things happen out there?
Honestly, I didn't. Just stories. People saying, what they've experienced.
Gotcha. Okay.
But, yeah, so I needed more time there. That's the thing. I was only there for a week maybe. And to get, I was doing more, because I work with, I used to work with a lot of the reservations and, doing powwows and spending time with family and stuff. So I was there. I wasn't there for Bigfoot. I was there to spend time with the Comanches, and I drum and sing with them. So, yeah, it's like I said, it's just part of my life, honestly. Now, it's so strange. I want to, there's this Bigfoot quote unquote museum up here where I live that opened up, and they did it for money. They didn't really know the Bigfoot. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So they're already putting it for sale, and I'm hoping to be able to buy it and do it right.
Oh, wow. That would be really cool. Yeah. Oh,
it'd be so fun.
And the connections you have, you'd be able to really set that up good. I mean, yeah.
It's so cool.
That's cool. Oh, Jesus, this has been a really fun chat. Thank you so much for coming on the show. As we start to wind down, this a few ending questions. Did you have any final thoughts or how people can keep up to date with all these different things you've got going on?
Yeah. Sure. If you go on YouTube and you type in the search section, you can type in Breaking Discoveries. That's the name of my channel. And Breaking Bigfoot is the series on my channel because I do other things too, but the majority of stuff is Bigfoot related, but that's Breaking Bigfoot. So you can type in either one, Breaking Discoveries or Breaking Bigfoot, and you'll see a picture of a Sasquatch with my face on it. And you'll see the majority of everything I talked about tonight on that channel. I'd say that'd be the most direct source. I have like 90 videos or something. I only make a video when I have new evidence. If I don't have new evidence, if it takes a year, you ain't gonna see a video for a year. Unless I see a case that's so interesting, I got to do a breakdown myself. But yeah, Breaking Discoveries is the YouTube channel. The Breaking Bigfoot series, it's there. If you want to hear the podcasts that I've done, not all of them, but a lot of them, just go to my playlists and you'll see the podcasts, interviews. Some of the interviews are from my movie stuff. There's another playlist called Paranormal 360. That's more of my UFO videos that I've filmed and stuff like that. But yeah, if you just want to learn about me, go on Google or whatever search engine you're using and type in Jesus Payan Jr. actor, or just Jesus Jr. actor, Breaking Bad's Gonzo. Any of those things will bring up the ridiculous amount of stuff that I do. And yeah, it's that's me. I'm here. I'm reachable. You can reach me on Facebook. Just search my name, Jesus Payan Jr. If you want to write me an email, it's kind of a complicated email, but it's breakingbad's.gonzo at gmail, 420 at gmail.com. So it's BREAKINGBADSGONZO420 at gmail.com. If you want to share your experience, images, video, hit me up. I don't hate. If you need me to like enhance any pictures or anything you think might be something interesting, I don't charge. I'm happy to do it for free. I just want to further the research and all that we're doing in the strange and unknown.
That's fantastic. And I think probably because you have a heart like that, that's why you have all the stuff that happens to you, because you've got that pure heart. That's just my personal opinion. But I've seen people that are in it for money, they're usually not going to experience a whole bunch. So anyways, that's another conversation.
I'm broke as a joke. I do tattoos for money and whatever the hell I can do for work. I work my ass off for my family, and I am not rich by any means. Yes, and I haven't made any good money off of the Bigfoot world. Like, no. I just do it because I love it, and I want to get the truth out there if we can.
I love it. Well, Jesus, thank you so much for coming on. It has been a pleasure chatting to you tonight.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be on your show, brother, and let's do it again soon.
You've got the privilege of talking to Mary today. Mary's an individual that reached out to me from the great state of Oklahoma with some interesting things that she's experienced over the years. So, Mary, it's great to have you on the show today.
Nice to be here.
Absolutely. We were talking a little bit beforehand, and it sounds like we'll definitely be getting into some interesting things. Feel free to take us back to when all this interesting stuff happened to you in your life.
I think the first time I'd actually experienced anything Bigfoot-wise was when I was growing up on Grand Lake, and I lived with my grandmother, and we would pick huckleberries during the summertime. And we would be out in the woods, and we would hear strange knocks or just strange noises that didn't sound like normal wildlife noises. And anytime we would hear them, she'd be like, okay, we need to move to this area, or we need to start thinking about moving back out. And I would ask her why, and she'd be like, well, they don't like us being around. And that was what she left it at. You're young, you don't ask questions. But you learned to listen for the knocks, and then at times you would hear the whooping. And during certain times of the year, there would be a lot of activity of the whooping and knocks late at night, especially early summers. There was always seemed to would increase, and you could go out into the woods and you would see, footprints sometimes, or you'd see tree branches down where yesterday they had been just fine. You would see where the undergrowth was kind of pushed. I remember finding areas where the berries were just picked bare, but over in another area they were fine. And there was all kinds of I want to say at that time I felt like it was weird, but you just got used to it. You learn to listen for the knocks, you learn to listen for whoops. If you heard any of that, you didn't, stay in that area, you moved. And while I was young, the first time I actually saw one, my grandmother, myself, and her best friend, who was a devout Christian, never said bad words, didn't do anything wrong, I didn't think she'd be the type to believe in a Bigfoot. We were out on this one ridge. It was really way back into the woods, I'd say 2 to 3 miles, almost to the lake. And we were standing there and we looked across the holler, and I saw something up in the cave across from the holler in the bluff. And she was standing there beside me looking in that direction. I'm like, do you see what I see? Because I wasn't going to tell her if she wasn't going to say I wasn't seeing. I knew what I was seeing was there was a Bigfoot standing there. And she goes, yeah, I think that's a Bigfoot. And I was like, it is a Bigfoot. And she goes, it's looking at us. I'm like, yeah. And she goes, we might need to, you know, move out of this area where they can't see us. Because it was just staring at us. There was a bigger one. And then when we were moving backwards, we glanced back, and there was two smaller ones up in there. And we went to go find my grandmother and bring her over to show her, and they were gone. And at that point, my grandmother goes, we need to leave. And as I got older, my grandmother said that she had been taught when she was little that you just, if you hear them or see something of them, leave. Just go back the way you came. They won't bother you as long as you're not messing with them or in the area where they're at. You would get used to seeing like tree limbs that are too high up for a person to knock down or pull down. I would say pull because it didn't really look like they were knocked over. It looked like they were deliberately broken along paths, and it looked like they were along game paths where you would see the deers and stuff come through. I know the one thing I did notice was there's a huge spring down on Grand Lake. It's called the Great Spring. The Indians used it because it was a wonderful water source. The water there is so pure and fresh tasting. It's amazing. But you could always see where they were around it. You could see the footprints of it, and footprints would go back up the hills. And you could, when you got down there, it's just a different feeling in that area. It's like you felt that they were watching to see what you were going to do. But I was never really scared of them because it just wasn't something, it was just, oh, they're here. Pay attention for them. You know, they would get loud at night. You know, you could hear them doing the knocks and the whoops really loud during the summer times. Fall and winter wasn't too bad, but summer was the main time we heard them. And we'd see glimpses here, there, and yonder. Through the years, you would just see like silhouettes of them.
The footprints that you saw over the years, how long would you estimate those footprints to be?
Goodness, definitely bigger than a size 13.
Okay, wow.
Some smaller. I had seen some through the years that was probably, I would say, about a woman's size 4 or 5. Okay. You know, like they were young, but the big ones were definitely over a 13. You know, like a 12 to 13. My boys were 12s, and they were definitely bigger than that.
The area that we're talking about, this Grand Lake area, what county is that?
It's in Delaware County. Grand Lake of Cherokees is the lake was actually built. They call it Grand Lake of the Cherokees because it was actually built over the Cherokee Indians where they burial mounds are, or used to be. They tried to get as many up and moved as they could, but they did miss some. And so they just come to refer to it as Grand Lake over the Cherokees. And then they shortened it through the years to Grand Lake of the Cherokees. That's what I was told by my grandmother, who was actually there when the lake was built. The original town is still under the water. They just literally flooded it. Once they built out where they wanted the lake to go, they flooded over it.
I'm assuming there's probably been a ton of Bigfoot sightings beside yours in that area as well.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. My sister-in-law experienced them through the years. My nephews have. My cousins. If you go out into the woods hunting up there, you're going to hear them if you don't see them. Just last year, there was a woman on Facebook. She's like, what in the world am I hearing? She goes, it sounds like weird Indian drums. And we're all like, okay, that's just the Bigfoot's knocking. You know, just leave it alone. They'll be fine. You're not going to die. It's okay. Because she was freaking out about it. She thought something really strange was going on. I think my grandmother said she first remember hearing about them as early as when some of her ancestors had settled in the area, and they come off the Trail of Tears. And she said it was just, they've always been there, she felt like. I know there's one thing I noticed and was weird to me was we had actually seen one year, we went out and there was a cabin. It used to be an old bootleg cabin. Bootleggers would stay in it and do their little moonshine stills and stuff in there. Anyway, I was out there exploring one day, and I thought, oh, I'm going to go and see, what's in this thing. I go inside, and there's a big nest in the building. Like they had actually discovered they could use the building as protection from the elements, and they built a big nest in there. And it stunk so bad. Oh, my goodness, did it stink. I remember coming out there thinking, oh, that's worse than skunk. It was so bad because the smell is just, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just awful. And even today, where I live at now, if I am out and I smell that, I'm like, oh, okay, they're around here somewhere. Because once you smell it, you don't forget it.
What materials was the nest made out of?
Brush, leaves, mainly. I think there was a little bit of maybe pine stuff in it, but it was mostly brush and leaves. I would say about the size of a love seat and diameter and like width.
Wow.
Yeah, it was decent sized. It was a decent sized thing. And I thought it was cool, but once I told my grandmother, she's like, nope, you're staying out there.
You're out of there. So this is a weird one, but did you get close enough to see what specific type of brush was used in the nest?
To me, it looked like young oak saplings.
Okay.
Brush, because up in that area is mainly the brush would be oak or walnut. About that material, that's mainly what's out there is oak and walnut trees. Some elm, but not much. But that's what it looked like it was. And then, like I said, the pine, there was pine needles, and they might have took some pine limbs off.
Wow.
So
that's very, very interesting, especially the part where it's inside.
See, that's what threw me, was because before then I had seen, where you could tell where they had knocked trees over to kind of make a protection. And I know that they have been in the caves from seeing the one in the cave, obviously, but also the Great Spring has a cave behind it, and it was common knowledge that something large lived in there and you didn't go in there. And so we're like, okay, what would be in there that's large? And I asked one of my cousins, I'm like, well, is it the panther? And he goes, no, it's not the panther. I'm like, oh, okay. And I left it at that because I knew what he was talking about if it's not the panther.
The legend was that people would see a large creature then and in that area of the cave. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. They would sit in the cave. I think, I don't know who, but there was a story that I heard from my dad that some kids went down in there and came hauling butt out and never went back.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, I didn't try it myself because I can't swim. So I was not, and to get to the cave, you have to go through the water. And obviously I wasn't going to do that if I can't swim because it's a very deep spring.
Oh,
it's a natural spring. Yes.
So I get it now. So this is a cave behind the waterfall. You had to swim through the waterfall.
There's no waterfall.
Oh,
there's no waterfall.
Okay.
It's a big spring about the size, oh goodness, of a 30 by 30 house.
Wow.
It's not used big around. I mean, it's a huge spring. And it fed into Grand Lake, and behind it was the cave, and you'd have to go through the spring to get up into the cave.
Okay. That's wild. When you had the sighting, were you close enough that you were able to notice any details about what you saw, or?
I could just tell that the one of them was tall, very tall. And then two smaller ones. I could tell that they did have the long hair. It looked like reddish brown to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I was a holler away from them. I couldn't tell close-up features, but you could tell what they were because it was daytime. It was like maybe we went out at 6. It got out there about 7:30. It was mid-morning, so it's probably about 10 or 11 when we saw them. Because I remember after that, she's like, "We're coming home," and it's a long walk back out. And it's on an old wagon trail.
Have there ever been any reports in that area of aggressive encounters?
I've heard of some, but I don't know if that was actual. I don't think they were physical, but they were scary. I know I've heard of hunters coming out just scared to death of something they've heard or seen in there, but they won't talk about it. We've noticed dogs, the hunting dogs, would come hauling out for no apparent reason. You can tell when they're around too because you don't hear as much wildlife. It's like the wildlife stays more quiet.
Does anyone ever report any like weird communication or hearing any like language type stuff or anything like that in the area?
I hadn't heard anything. I don't know if anyone else has on that. They've never really said. I know most of what we heard was always just the whoops and the knocks. Now, you could hear some knocks. You'd hear like a series of knocks followed by whoops. And then they'd knock again. And you could tell they were coming from different areas. You could tell if you stand out there and listen, you could tell like if one's to the right of you and then from the left, they would respond.
Okay. So you had situations where you were having multiple talking to or something communicating through knock patterns all around you.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Yes. Yeah. That's common, especially in the early evenings. I was always out in the woods. They're definitely up there. They travel through this area regularly. I know today they still have people hearing them and seeing them. And
just so listeners know what we're looking at here. So we're in the northeast corner of Oklahoma here, which is over by the Ozarks, right?
Yeah, there's areas where it's very heavily wooded, not a lot of people. There's caves that go distances in there. I know it's closed up now, but there used to be a cave that did run from what is now Grove and come out on the south side of Grove up on a hill. And you can actually, when the water goes down, you can see the one cave entrance.
Wow.
But the other side is now under a parking lot. So I know the caves run through, and that could be one way where they're getting from one area to the other is through the caves. And I know there's caves down there people have not been in because they're up on hillsides or they're just too far to get to very easily.
There's a question I want to ask you, mainly for just my own curiosity, because of the geography of the area that this is. A factor I've seen come up in different areas that are like yours. Are there also reports of other things besides Bigfoot that would also be considered similar creatures in that same area?
There's skeelies.
What's that?
A skeelie is like they call them little people.
Okay.
But there's little creatures. You'll hear them, see them occasionally. There is definitely a lot of paranormal activity ghost-wise. That's just something else you get used to seeing and hearing. That's just part of it. There's panthers up in there. There's black panthers. Bears. I personally haven't seen any aliens up in there, but, I've heard a couple of people swear they've seen them. I do know, you see weird lights occasionally. So just something that's unexplained.
Those are all things that I was not expecting to just come up. That's pretty intense.
I grew up around there, so I'm used to it. I live in a haunted house. I'm used to it.
Okay. What was it like growing up in an area where there's everything from little people to ghosts to Black Panthers, aliens, Bigfoot?
For me, it was normal.
Okay.
For me, it was absolutely normal because I was just raised up that it's part of what's up there. It's just around you. Accept it, and they won't mess with you if you don't mess with them. If you don't show no aggression towards them, or and you acknowledge they're there, then you're fine. That's just the way my grandmother taught me, and so I've always had the acceptance of it. So it's not like I moved in and I'm like, oh no, what am I dealing with? I always knew what I was dealing with, and so it never bothered me. I mean, I ran free all over those woods, and I was a kid growing up in the 80s, and I was all over the place up in there. Never fazed me a bit to be out in the middle of nowhere by myself with them. Even today, you accept it and deal with it and go on.
Did you ever have any interactions with the Skeelies that you know of?
No. Thankfully, they chose to leave me alone because they're mischievous little things. But my cousins have told stories about them, stealing their stuff and putting it in different spots or terrorizing them. But thankfully, they chose to leave me alone. I think it's just because I'm like, whatever.
Right. Is this another name for the Fae, do you think? Have you ever heard that term?
I think so.
Yeah.
I believe so. Because Skeely is an Indian term, from what I've understood. And so it very well could be to me. It makes perfect sense.
Okay. So you mentioned you've lived in a haunted house, which is, I'm sure you have all sorts of weird stories to do with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got, I lived in a haunted house growing up. Through the years, we've lived on the one where now is currently haunted. So, it's fun. When I was growing up, where we lived at was on the old wagon trail. It was on the actual settlers trail. My family farm was one of the first farms actually put as a farm when Indians got land. And there was numerous areas where you could have cold spots or you'd see just a white figure. There was an old cabin it had to have had something to do with cowboys or something, because when it's rainy nights and thunderstorming, if you stand outside to where the cabin used to be, you can hear the bottles clanking, and you can hear, it sounds like they're playing cards. Whoa. And you can't hear what they're saying, but you hear the chatter, the little mummers. You can't make up what they're saying, but you can hear them. And then also in that same area, and this is also, this is all in the same area where you had the sightings and stuff, there's an Indian. You'll see an Indian, he's got a headdress on, and he's tall, very solemn looking, but we call him the guardian because he'll watch you while you're out in the woods, and you'll see him ever so often. And it's just like he's there making sure you get in and out of the woods okay. And he just sits and watches. So we just call him the guardian. That's what my cousins and I grew up calling him.
And you've seen that yourself personally?
Yes.
How tall would you say that is?
About 6 foot.
Yeah.
5'8" to 6 foot. Very tall, very solemn, weathered face. Even though it was, obviously white, you could still see the weathering. You could still tell he was very old.
When you say that there are reports of aliens in this area, are you saying more like UFO encounters, or there's actually like aliens being seen?
Well, the two guys I went to high school with swear they saw a UFO. Mm-hmm. They swear to goodness they saw a UFO. Whether they did or not, I don't know. but they were definitely serious about it. And from where I grew up, it would have been about halfway going into Grove, up in another really wooded area, which that area itself is kind of crazy. It's got weird activity. There's a cemetery up there that has the grave of Stan Wadey from the Cherokees. And it's said that if you go to his grave at night and you listen, you can hear a fiddle being played. And I've not got to hear it, but I've had friends that's told me they've heard it. And there's just some very weird stuff over in that area as well.
I can only imagine. There's got to be. Are there situations where these different players have been seen in the same location, like skeely activity with aliens? Do they cross over, or are they usually separate?
I don't know on that part, but I do know that if you go out in the area where the Bigfoots generally were at, when I was younger, you would definitely have some other activity, well, skeely-wise or just other weird. I can't really describe it as anything but weird, because you'd feel an odd sensation that wasn't from the Bigfoot, but you couldn't quite place it at times.
The funny thing is when you started talking about whatever you just said, the phone did some really weird stuff, like someone was trying to mess around with the phone. Do you mind repeating that, what they would do?
Like the skeelies will...
Yeah.
Okay, well, from what my cousin said, they'll either pull pranks on you or they will terrorize you, like pick on you, like peck on your shoulder, but no one's there. Or they take your stuff and move it from one spot to another. You know, especially if you were outside, doing something outside, you'd have a tool beside you, you turn around, look, and it's gone. And then it'd be way over in another spot. That happened to my cousins a lot. I was very thankful they left me alone.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that stuff like this that was happening to your cousins out there, that would probably follow them home, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sometimes. I do know that there was one time where one summer there was a weird Bigfoot coming through.
Okay.
And I say weird because this one would actually come up and like stare in your windows. Oh. And rattle doors. And it terrorized my nephews something awful an entire summer, to the point where they would sleep in the hallway with their bedroom doors shut, refusing to go in their rooms after dark. It was so bad. And they lived just down the road from me. We found handprints. That would have been in 94.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was pregnant with my first one. So, yeah, 94, 95, somewhere right in that area.
Oh, wow. And you were saying the handprints were being found around the houses as well?
Yes. We found handprints on the window a couple of times. And then our neighbors, the neighbor next to them, had been hearing weird stuff at night, and her dogs were scared to go out. They wouldn't even leave the yard. And usually them things ran all over hell and creation. Cows would be clustered more than normal. So it was definitely weird that year. And that's why we just thought it was a weird one. You know, he was more aggressive than others. But he never actually, hurt anyone, but he was sure terrorizing people.
The one I wanted to ask you about specifically, were there ever any reports of Dogman in that area?
I don't remember any Dogman. I do know I could never get her to describe it, but my daughter was terrorized by what she called the Shadow Man. And and this was something common again, that different kids in the area, once we got to asking around, had experienced this thing just terrorizing them. And it would scare them to the point they would not leave their parents' side. I mean, we spent 6 months with her right next to us, inside and out, because she swore it could get her. But she would never describe it to us. And none of the other kids that seen it would describe it to us as well. So we don't know for sure what that was. But you could feel when it was around, because it felt it literally felt evil. It felt like it was the worst thing, and you would get really bad, like something bad's going to happen feelings. That's why we thought of it as evil.
So they wouldn't say what it was like.
They wouldn't give us a description.
Okay.
They wouldn't tell us anything.
Wow.
Yeah. And the only time any of us ever saw it was we caught a glimpse once, my cousin and I, because we had raced home. A bunch of the teenagers had been home alone and they'd seen it and freaked and called us. And we got there and you could see something with red eyes. But that's all we could tell was the red eyes. It was total blackness.
Were the red eyes higher up or low to the ground, or?
No, they were like maybe, I would say maybe 5'4",
Okay.
5'5". They weren't, they wouldn't be higher up. They wouldn't, to me, it didn't look like it would be a height for anything else. It was definitely weird, though. The eyes were definitely weird.
Wow. There's some really strange things going on in this Delaware County area.
Yes, Delaware County definitely has activity all over in this area of Oklahoma. It really does. Mays County, where I'm at now, is definitely weird and unusual stuff as well. I mean, I've had a Bigfoot sighting down here. This was where my husband actually saw his first Bigfoot. There's a story from back in the 50s that the Army Corps of Engineers actually had a fight with Bigfoots before they built one of the dams down here.
Really?
Yeah. You'd have to give me a couple of days to find my information on that, but I've got some information on it that I have saved from what a friend sent me about it. The story is that they told them, forced them to move, and if they didn't move, then they were going to be killed. And they flooded the area, and now that Spavinaw Dam is there now.
You've got all the time you need, because I've never heard of that one. That sounds really interesting.
Well, I'll definitely get the information together for you.
Yeah,
because that's one of those ones I'm like, ooh, I want to, dig into that myself.
Wow.
But there's all kinds activity. As I said, there's an auction over here on Highway 412, and my husband and I were there late one evening, and all of a sudden he comes running up to our vehicle, and he's like, get the kids loaded, let's get out of here. And I'm like, why? What's going on? And I noticed the cows were moving, but I had been distracted with kids, so I didn't pay much attention. Well, I glanced up when he said that, and about the time he's telling me, I'm seeing there's a familiar silhouette walking across the field. He goes, I just saw something literally cross that creek in one step. I was like, you may have stepped once into the creek. He goes, no. He goes, it stood on one side and stepped across two together. We're getting out of here. And I'm like, oh, you just saw a Bigfoot. That's not, because that's right there. And we had to leave immediately. And up to that point, he had never believed in it. But after that, he's like, okay, yep, I'm a believer.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
That's the same county area as Delaware? Or?
No, it's a county over.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just they're connecting counties.
Very, very interesting. If you don't mind me asking, do you have any Native American heritage yourself?
Yes, I do. I have Cherokee, Delaware, and Potawatomi Indian.
Okay, awesome. Wow. It's just, I can almost, when I do interviews like this, I can almost bank on the person definitely has some heritage. I mean, it's like every single time. It's incredible. I don't know quite what it is, but there's definitely a connection there, I think.
I think it's because, with us having that background, if you're raised up in it like I was, I was taught the old ways and whatnot, that you're more accepting of it and you're more open to it. So it doesn't bother you as much.
Oh, I agree. I think once you know what to look for, you're going to start to see stuff for sure.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I tell my kids when they're out in the woods, I'm like, okay, keep an eye out. You know, if you hear this or you smell this, you need to be watching and just leave them alone.
The interview kind of turned into something I wasn't expecting. I mean, there's a lot more going on in this area, so we got a little bit distracted, but I think it was definitely worth having the conversation. Are there also other times that you've had what you think are Bigfoot interactions in your life?
Yes, let's see, we had, what year would have been? Around 2000, 2001, somewhere right in that area. I can't remember exactly how old my third child was at that time. We lived up in Coffeyville. We actually lived in South Coffeyville on the Illinois River on a ranch. And we would go through the hayfield, through this really thick area of trees to go down to a river, which was actually the Illinois River for the kids to swim and whatnot. And you would feel like they're just there watching you. And a couple of times it made my husband so uncomfortable, he actually said, "We're leaving now," because of how intense the feeling felt. But one night we were out there. There was a very bad storm coming in. We had 1,500 bales of hay on the ground. And so I was helping my husband haul the hay in. And my son goes, "Mom, what's over there in the woods?" And I look, and you could see the outline of the Bigfoot and the edge of the woods. They were in enough to where you couldn't see all of them, but you could tell they were there, and you could see its eyes. And they're just watching. And when you get closer to that area, it would like step closer to where it's going to come out into the headlights, but not quite. And so I made a couple of rounds getting hay bales. My son kept getting uneasy, so I pulled over, and my husband's like, "What's going on?" And I showed him, and he goes, "Okay." He goes, "I'll do that area. You just, stay up this way," because we didn't want to, scare my son. He was like 3 at the time. And I was back up this way, and then pretty soon he's coming over, and he goes, "Nope, forget it." And I'm like, "Why?" And he goes, "Well, I just got a rock thrown at me." And I'm like, "Okay, they threw a rock." And he goes, "No, I got a rock thrown at me." And he held it up, and it was a decent-sized little boulder. And it was like they were warning him to stay out of that area. So he actually did not get the hay in that area. He left it. And I was like, "Well, I guess they just don't want you over there." And he goes, "I guess not." And we left it and went home. And then we went back out the next day, and all you could see, because of how bad the storm was, well, you could tell something had been standing there, but you couldn't tell any real footprints or anything. But you could tell where it was sunk in from something standing. That's the only time I'd ever had anything it wasn't even toward me, it was towards him. And I think that he might have just got too close for their comfort. And so they chunked a rock at him. I told him, I was like, "Well, I told you, there's Bigfoot around here. Just gotta watch them."
And was that before or after his sighting?
After. If you're in South Coffeyville, you're about 15 minutes from the border. Because once you get into Coffeyville is when you hit the border. And it takes about 10, 15 minutes to get up in there. But there's also, if you get into looking to sightings, there's a lot of sightings up in that area. Because the river is one of the best places for them to catch the fish. The Illinois has got some of the best fishing there is.
Okay, the Illinois River. Gotcha. So a lot of sightings along that. Interesting. I will have to look into that for sure. I don't hear a lot from, I'm sure there is, but I've never gotten a lot from that area of Kansas or
well, Oklahoma. Most people don't talk about it.
Okay.
That's the other thing, is you're taught not to talk about it because people think you're crazy. Yeah, like I was taught from an early age, don't go to school talking about any of this because people are going to think you're crazy. If something weird happens, just pass it off. Don't go, "Oh, well, that's a ghost." Or, "Ooh, that was weird." You're taught not to talk of it. So it's just something you're used to. You go out looking for it. Me personally, any chance I get, I'm going to go hunting. I'm going to go look, see if I can find me a ghost or see if I can do something. But most people, they're taught not to acknowledge it. Yeah, my husband was.
Growing up or over, your lifetime, do you ever remember anyone saying, "Hey, I got a photo of Bigfoot. I got a video from a Bigfoot"? I mean, they probably wouldn't have said anything anyways, to be honest. That's what it sounds like.
Unfortunately not. I know my cousin tried one summer.
Oh,
He was dead set on getting one, but he even put trail cams up and everything, but all he got was a bunch of blur and a lot of deer. So I was like, well, you're just not in the right spot, I guess. He goes, no, I'm near that, I'm across from that cave where you sit. And I was like, well, I don't know. I guess they don't like you. I was just harassing him. Because he was very determined to get a picture, but he never could. Because we had come back and I told him what we'd seen. And so he was like, I'm going to go see if I can find it. But he was never able to. I know he had some sightings through the years, but photograph-wise, unfortunately, never got to get one.
Gotcha. And growing up in that area, was there a person where everyone would be like, oh, you saw Bigfoot, go talk to this guy. He's kind of the guy who's into it around here. Nope.
No, it was all, you kept quiet about it.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, but it was old timers up in that area, and it was people that had grown up in that area. So it was just, it was common knowledge. It was just common knowledge that they were there. I have family still live up there. I know that they still hear stuff. They still see stuff. I definitely know down in the area where I grew up at, there is people having, hearing the knocks and the whoops and stuff like that. Yes.
It's not an area a lot of people talk. I think everyone's too distracted by Southeast Oklahoma,
Yes. And, if you follow the river, the Illinois comes right up. And then the Grand is up here. And the Grand River, and it all flows right up, actually flows down from all of the lakes, because Grand Lake of the Cherokees flows down into Lake Uchee. Lake Uchee flows down into Lake Hudson. They're all just connected, and everything flows down through the rivers. So it's not very hard to think. If you track it, they can walk, and go from one area to the other during the different times of the year for food, for where the fish are at, where the game's at, it would make sense. Like a natural migration.
Absolutely. The longer I talk to people about this, I find that one of the common factors is it's by a river, and you can just follow the reports up and down. For example, I'm from Iowa. You can just follow the reports up and down the Des Moines River through southeast Iowa. It's incredible. Yes. It sounds like it's a very similar thing down there.
Yes, it is. Because if you look at the geography of the area and you look at the sightings, there's not a lot of sightings out in the western parts of Oklahoma because there's not as much river. There's not as much woods. But over in the southeast corner, all the way up to the northeast corner, that's all we are is river and woods and creeks and lakes, and it's the perfect area for them because there's also lots of caves. Dripping Springs State Park's over here, and that is a huge state park that has, natural waterfalls, caves, all kinds of stuff. It's the perfect area for them to be.
Did anyone ever see anything that looked like a tall, pale, skinny, creature, just really kind of weird, kind of like if you remember the Lord of the Rings movies, like you had Gollum?
I've never actually watched the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I think the strangest creature we've seen around here would be a skinwalker.
So that could be similar, depending on what your definition is. So what would be your definition of that?
Well, we've traditionally around here, we've got two types from what we call skinwalkers, or I personally. We have a gentleman in Tahlequah, or lives kind of around Tahlequah, that he's said to turn into a bear. And then we have this one that to me, it's creepy. It's like the top half looks kind of human with antlers and a very creepy face, but the bottom half is like more animal. I've heard stories of people seeing stuff like that, but I just like, oh, well, it must be a skinwalker and pass it off because it probably is something to do with that or something.
I've never heard of that before. Especially the deer antlers. Is it usually called labeled as a female or male?
Usually male.
Okay.
What I'd heard. And like I said, I've never personally seen it. I've just heard the stories of it. One of my friends, she is a full-blood Cherokee Indian, and she lives out near Kenwood, which is pretty much, if you're not Indian, you stay out type area.
Why would you do that?
And she, well, they don't like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. And if they don't like you, you're not going in there. And anyway, she was always told never walk home after dark. Well, and if you walk home after dark, if you hear something behind you, do not turn around. Well, she was walking home after dark. She heard something behind her. Well, she's smart. She didn't turn around, but she held her camera up and took a selfie over her shoulder to try to catch what it was. She described it as a demon. It's pale white, walking on all fours, red eyes, scurrying after her. She made that mile walk in 4 minutes. She was done. She goes, I don't even remember how I got home. And I'm like, well, now we know why they told us not to be out after dark. And it was just in that one area up in there because they said it was really haunted. And it was evil and this and that. It's what you heard growing up. And then she took this picture. Unfortunately, the phone got broke, so she didn't get to get the picture off.
Right.
But it looked like a pale white creature on all fours, like it was scurrying.
Yeah, that's what I was asking
like
about right there. Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Well, see, I didn't know what they were called. we was told it was a demon.
Okay.
We really didn't know what it was, but that's what her mom had called it.
Oh, wow. And so that's Kenwood, Oklahoma?
Yeah, up around the Kenwood Rose area. Okay. And that's about, from where I live now, it's about 20 minutes.
It's an unincorporated community, it looks like?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't like breaking down out there.
That is, man, that kind of thing makes me want to look into it, but I don't know how far I want to look into it. People there probably not want to talk at all, I would guess.
No.
No. Yeah.
No.
Unless they reach out, which they're more than welcome to. But yeah, you don't go knocking on doors around there.
No. Not in that area.
No, definitely not. Man, it's been some fun talking to you. It's a fascinating area of Oklahoma. Definitely going to be looking more into this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, get in touch with me anytime. I'm more than happy to go out and help you hunt.
Absolutely. And if you ever run into any other information, if you're able to pull up what you have about...
I will definitely find that and send it to you because it was, to me, it's... What I found fascinating about it was I remember because when she first gave it to me, I went looking and you can't find anything about it. Like they don't want you to know about it. And so I was like, I'm going to go to the historical societies and I'm going to try to pull, more information that route.
That's where you found it, was the historical society.
Well, she found it there.
Oh, she did. Oh, wow.
And she sent it to me. And so I'm going to go back and try because I have to go to the historical society for a grave I'm trying to find. So, it won't be a very hard thing for me to look into and try to find more information. If I can't do it that route, then I know there's still some old timers alive from that time that might talk to me, because I've learned here in Oklahoma anyways, once these old timers get to a certain age, they don't care what they tell.
Oh, yeah, it's great. It is so good. That is a lesson I've learned myself. You need to figure out where they're at and become friends with them, like buy them coffee or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I've learned. And I'm like, oh, I'm loving this, because I can find out so much more information from them than I can any historical society half the time.
Absolutely.
And that's actually why what I'm relying on to find this grave I'm looking for, is to try to track down some old timers that were alive when this incident, or not when it happened, but they would have been little kids and their parents might have talked about it and try to locate it. And I'm like, ooh, I love these old timers, man. You give them a cup of coffee, you're there for 3 hours learning stuff.
No, absolutely. Or the same is with older librarians in a town.
Yes.
And historical societies. I've had luck with them as well.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, while I'm thinking about it, there is up in Uchi, there is a cemetery, and there has been sightings of Bigfoot walking behind the cemetery. And I know they're fairly recent.
Where is this?
Up in Uchi.
Uchi.
Which is, it's on this, if you are south of Grove on Highway 20. Yeah, you take 59 down into J, and then from J, you go like you're going down 59 to Tahlequah, but you turn onto 20, and you go into Uchi. And when you're going into Uchi, there's a huge cemetery on the left-hand side. And there has been, as recent as last year, I know for sure, sightings of Bigfoot behind that cemetery or walking through the back edge of that cemetery.
I'm going to definitely look into that. So as late as last year, you're saying there's been reports in that
Yes.
area. That's cool.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. I've talked to people that's had, they live up in that area, and they're like, man, we see them all the time. We hear this all the time.
Wow. Well, Mary, thank you so much for spending an hour of your time with me and just sharing some really, really interesting things of what's going on in this area you're familiar with. And hopefully if people are listening to this and they know of things going on around Uchi and the cemetery and all this, man, there's even a place called Monkey Island near this. How crazy is that?
Okay, so Monkey Island got its name because a circus was coming through and monkeys actually got loose.
Okay, cool.
They captured them, but yeah.
All right.
Yeah, this whole area is, I mean, you ever come down here, you'll have fun.
Yeah, it's as crazy as there's another lake. It's down by Texas. The lake, what's it called? Lake Texoma has a lot of weird stuff like you guys.
Oh yeah, I've drove over that one. That's some cool areas down there. Yeah,
and
fun stuff down there.
They both look like dragons. That's weird when you look.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, man, Mary, thank you so much. Keep me in mind if you ever run into any other weird stuff in your area.
Oh, and, absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming on today.
You're welcome.
Before we wrap this episode, I want to say something directly to a very specific group of listeners. If you're in the military, any branch or forces, and if you've seen something that no one can explain, or if you're a national park ranger or forestry worker who's been told to stay quiet, or if you're a pilot who's seen something strange down on the ground, or if you're with the FBI, a federal agency, or working intelligence, and you stumbled upon something you're not allowed to talk about, and if you're a firefighter, paramedic, or search and rescue responder who's heard screams or found tracks that didn't make sense, if you're in the logging industry, on a remote oil field, or a trucker with government contracts, and you've had something happen that you've never told a soul, and if you're a biologist, a wildlife specialist, or a field researcher under contract who has found evidence you're not allowed to report, if you're a pastor, a missionary, or someone on a spiritual retreat, and and you saw something that shook your faith, or if you work in the shadows, CIA, NSA, or anything with clearance, and you've seen what the public hasn't, then I want to talk to you. Even if it's anonymous, you can reach me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. The world needs to hear what you've been forced to carry alone, and you're not alone. You've got the story. We've got the mic. See you in the woods. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Bigfoot Society podcast. Every encounter we share reminds us that the world is bigger and stranger than we think, and that the truth is often hiding just beyond the tree line. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe to the channel on YouTube, hit the bell so you don't miss the next episode, and share this with a friend who's into mysteries, monsters, or the unexplained. And if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcast, please follow the show there and leave us a 5-star positive review, because all that helps more people discover the show. And remember, if you or someone you know has had a Bigfoot sighting, please, I'd love to hear from you. So email me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com and let's start the conversation. If you haven't gotten a chance yet, check out our membership community over at www.bigfootsocietypodcast.com. And that's where you can hear tomorrow's episode today, early and ad-free, and members-only episodes every week. Also, it's a place to connect with other people that are into the Bigfoot subject as much as you are. Thanks again for following along with the Bigfoot Society. Until next time, keep your eyes open, trust your gut, and never stop asking what else might be out there. And see you in the woods.